Good morning. Today we are going to be working with rounding decimals, and there's going to be two main places where we're going to work on rounding decimals. The first place we're going to work with rounding decimals is going to be with whole numbers, and the second place we're going to work with decimals and rounding is going to be the tenths. I know this year we've also worked in decimals with hundredths. However, we don't have a place value yet that we've worked with to the right of hundredths, which would actually be the thousandths place with the TH. So we will not be rounding to the hundredths this year. However, next year when you guys get to 5th grade, you will definitely be learning that. So we're going to start off today by working with whole numbers and rounding whole numbers. And rounding decimals is actually just a lot like rounding just regular numbers without the decimal. So this first example that I gave, you have 3 and 4 tenths. Since you're rounding to the nearest whole number, this is the number you're looking at. You're going to go next door, you're going to check it out, and just like with whole numbers, the rule's really simple. If it's 5 or higher, you're going to round up. If it's 4 or lower, you're going to round down. When you round up, you're going to change your whole number up 1, drop the decimal, and make it a 0. If you're rounding down, you're going to leave your whole number alone. You're going to drop your decimal, and you're just simply going to turn it into a 0. So it would look like that. If you have a number that you're rounding to a whole number and you have the thousands, you're just going to ignore this place value here. You're going to look at your whole number, go next door, look at your number, and again, remember 4 and down, you round down, 5 and up, you round up. So when you look at this, again, if you are rounding down, you would leave the whole number alone. You just drop the decimal and turn it into zeros. In this case, you're going to round up. So you're going to take that 3, you're going to turn it into a 4, and then you're still going to drop the decimal and turn it into zeros, just like that. So that's rounding with whole numbers. The other place value where you might need to round to is the tenths. When you round with the tenths, your number should have 2 decimal places. You should have a tenths and a hundredths. The whole number is over here, and it's really important that when you're rounding to a tenth, you leave the whole number alone. So even though it's there, you should almost never touch it. I'll give you an example here in 1 second of a situation where you might touch it. But you're looking at the 5, you're going next door and looking at the hundred spot. Since we're following our general rule, 5 and up we round up, 4 and down we round down. We're just going to take this and we're going to drop that down and put a 0, or I guess we leave it the same since we're rounding down. If we round it up, we'd bump this 5 up to a 6 and still put the 0 there. Here's one more where we're going to, again, I guess, round down. I'll show you one where we round up. We're looking at our tenths. We're going next door. We're looking at that 4. Again, we're leaving the whole number alone. And then we're dropping that hundredths down to a 0. If we round up, I'll give you an example of one of those here in a second. It would look like this. That's 87 hundredths. So again, I'm looking at my tenths. I'm rounding to my nearest tenths. I look next door at that 7. Since I round up, I move the tenths up 1, and then I end it in a 0. I had mentioned a second ago about not touching the whole number. There is one situation where you touch the whole number, and I'll show you using this one. So if I went ahead and changed this to 98 hundredths, and I told you to round it to the nearest tenths, when you look at this 8, you'd obviously have to round the 9 up, at which point then you have to carry the number over, and so you'd round it up to 1. That's about the only situation where you would ever have to touch the whole number when you're rounding with the tenth. So that's the kind of tricky one to be aware of, but overall it's not that much different from rounding whole numbers. So this is what we are going to work with today. Thank you.